Which brings me to my second point. Those threats are there and they're real. During my time in this place, and especially as Prime Minister, we have seen an end to the post-Cold War period of globalisation and the emergence of a new era of strategic competition where our global rules-based order is being challenged by a new arc of autocracy. This arc of autocracy, which I referred to as Prime Minister, ranges from Pyongyang to Beijing, Tehran and Moscow, a chord of would-be regional hegemons who would prefer power to freedom and cared little for the price their own citizens pay to achieve their ends. For this reason, our government stood firm against the bullying and coercion of an aggressive Chinese Communist Party government in Beijing, who thought we would shrink when pressed. Indeed, we not only stood firm, but we worked with our allies, our partners and those in our region who wish to protect their own sovereignty, to counter this threat to regional peace, prosperity and stability. AUKUS, the Quad, new trading and defence relationships, the first ever comprehensive strategic partnership of any nation with ASEAN, and others, including PNG, the Pacific Step-Up, all designed to protect our sovereignty and stand up for a global rules-based order that favours freedom, especially here in our own region in the Indo-Pacific. In this respect, I pay tribute to the work of Maurice Payne and Dan Tehan, as well as Simon Birmingham, and thank the Trump and Biden administrations, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, my good friends Boris Johnson and James Marape, Mike Pence and Mike Pompeo and Robert O'Brien, and I pay tribute to the late and great Shinzo Abe and his successors, Prime Minister Suga and Kishida. The 2022 election may have provided an opportunity for Beijing to step back from their failed attempts at coercion, but we must not be deluded. Tactics change, but their strategy remains the same. We're not alone in waking up to this threat. Investors are now rightly pricing the risk of their investments in an authoritative communist China, while consumer advocates are waking up to human rights abuses and environmental degradation that infects these supply chains. This requires continued vigilance and the connection between all spheres of policy to create and protect supply chains, integrate and align our strategic and military capabilities so we can protect our sovereignty and counter the threat that is real and building. In Tehran, we find the funders, trainers and apologists for terrorists seeking to acquire the most deadly defence technology imaginable, nuclear weapons. Their green light for the Hamas terrorist attacks on innocents in Israel on October 7 is unforgivable. In response to such overt attacks, there can be no equivocation on where we stand as a representative democracy when another who has been such a great friend of Australia is under attack. There also can be no equivocation in calling out the anti-Semitism that has now occurred in this country to our shame and other places across the Western Hemisphere in the wake of October 7. And to that end, I'm pleased to acknowledge the presence today of the Israeli ambassador, Amir Maimon, in the chamber today. Am Yisrael Chai. And in Ukraine, fighting continues to rage 2 years after Russia's illegal invasion. I'm proud of our swift response to support Ukraine. This must continue and is, utilising every resource and capability we can reasonably provide. Ukraine may be a long way from Australia, but the implications of a Russian victory will reverberate just as quickly in our own hemisphere, emboldening again those who seek to challenge our region. So my third point, how do we stand? And on what ground? Well, on the very same ground that established our Western civilisation, that inspired and enabled the modern pluralist representative democracy we now enjoy. We stand on the values that build a successful, free society: individual liberty, the rule of law, equality of opportunity, responsible citizenship, morality, liberty of speech, thought, religion and association. All of these stem from the core principle of respect for individual human dignity. So does representative democracy and even market-based capitalism. This is a unique Judeo-Christian principle. It is about respecting each other's human dignity through our creation by God's hand in God's image for God's glory, where each human life is eternally valued, is unique, is worthy, is loved, and is capable. This is the very basis for our modern understanding of human rights. With the advance of secularism in Western society, we may wish to overlook these connections or even denounce them. But the truth remains. Human rights abuses were once called crimes against God, not just humanity. And they are, and they remain so. These truths are not self-evident, as some claim, as history and nature tells a very different story. They are divinely inspired.